Hey everybody, it's here again. Good to see you. It's been a while. Sorry about that. Just been dealing with the everyday things of life. Well, last time I was here I wanted to talk about back when I was younger, how I think my BPD started. But I ended up talking about a major meltdown that I had and what I went through with that. So this week I want to get back to what I was going to talk about. I have a feeling that my BPD started back when I was about, I'd have to say, 8 or 9. When I was about 7, 6 or 7, we had to move. We lived in Detroit. We had to move because my dad's job at Massey Ferguson moved to Ohio, so we had to move down there so he could keep his job. So my parents ripped me out of my home and away from my friends and took me down to Ohio. And we lived in Akron for a little less than a year while they were having a house built in Cuyahoga Falls. And so I went to a new school, made some friends. But then once the house was done, I got yanked out of that house and that school, moved into the new house in Cuyahoga Falls, and new school, new friends. And then within a year of being there, my old man decided to split. And he took off with our neighbor's wife. She's now my stepmother. But they took off and he just left me and my mom stranded in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. And I don't hold it against him because my mom was a very bitter woman from her first failed marriage. And I can understand why he left. I don't think it was a good thing to do. He kind of threw me under the bus to take care of himself, but that's okay. I understand why he did it. But, and then again, we had to move back to Michigan, back to our old house where my sister and her family were staying while we were down there. Ripped out of my home and ripped out of school again. So all that moving around along with my old man split, and it was really devastating. Now, I think it kind of started a little before then, because now that I've talked to my stepmother, she said while we were living in Cuyahoga Falls, I was a pretty angry young man. I don't know how true that is. I don't remember much back then. I don't know if I blocked it out or just all the drugs and alcohol I've done in my life, because by the time I was older side of 13, 14, I had already started drinking and I was well on my way to being an alcoholic. 14, 15-ish, I started doing drugs. Even though my first encounter was like 12 years old with my cousin doing mescaline before I even drank or smoked pot. But I think that's kind of when my BPD started, because they say that there's usually some kind of traumatic experiences that cause this stuff to happen. All those traumas were probably my traumas that brought about BPD. I know growing up with my mom after we moved back to Michigan, having to deal with her bitterness over 2 marriages and dealing with a teenage son who was a drug addict and an alcoholic, there were a lot of fights. I said a lot of things to my mom I wish I would have never said. And in that house where I was growing up, there were many, many holes in the wall from me punching the wall in anger. It was not a good experience. I used to use the alleyways to travel around my neighborhood, and I'd pick up old rusty beer cans and rip them into a sharp edge and cut myself, hoping that I would get blood poisoning and die. Tried to overdose on my 18th birthday by taking pills. It was not a good life. And it went that way up until I was 21 and I decided I can't take this life anymore, so I joined the Navy, which was one of the best things I could ever do because it made me grow up and become a man. And it was the best job I ever had. I really wanted to stay there and be a lifer, but I gained a little too much of this. Made friends with the cabin's cook and got a little too fat to stay in the Navy. But you know, this is how my life was planned by the good Lord. All the things that I've been through were for a reason, and I understand that. Not that it makes it any better. It's still hard to deal with. And you know, I wish things could have been different, but the one thing I am very happy about is that my wife finally talked me into going and getting counseling. She bugged me for a long time to do it, and I was like, no, I am not going to some stranger and telling them my problems. I was very adamant against that. I was not doing that. But let me tell you, if you're suffering from this disorder, go and get counseling. I'm not going to stop saying that because it's so good for you. You cannot defeat this thing on your own. You can try and try and try. It will never work. So get out there and look for some counseling. You know, I've heard a saying that people use that, excuse me, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different outcome. Well, if you're trying to deal with this on your own, you're just going to be dealing with the same thing over and over, and it ain't going to change. Because you need that perspective of somebody who's been trained to teach you how to deal with this. It's just like if you have heart disease, you can't deal with it on your own. You got to go see a heart doctor. If you have cancer, or if you have any kind of disease that's life-threatening, unless you go see a doctor that can help you, you're not going to beat it. So you need to do this. You need to go get help. Again, I want to tell you about this book. It's a good thing to start with. It's written for Christians, but anybody can read it because it's a good read. It's written by a professor at a university in Texas. Her name's Kathy Wiseman. It's called Borderline Personality, a Scriptural Perspective. You can pick it up on christianbooks.com for like $4.98 and shipping. Now, I was telling you about a page that that's been helping me a lot. And what it is, in the middle of this page is a picture of a man that's angry. And then all around it, there are 11 different emotions that could be the real thing that you're feeling. But us as borderlines, we tend to gravitate to the anger because then we're in control. And we are the captain of our ship, whether you want to say a captain of our destiny. We are the ones in control, so we default to anger because we don't want to deal with the other stuff. It's hard. So I'm going to show you that poster right now. I got this from offposters.com. It was relatively cheap. I don't remember exactly. It was $7 something with shipping. And right here we have the guy with anger here in the middle. And all around we have 11 emotions. It says manage your anger. What's behind it? So we have shame, anxiety, hurt, jealousy, embarrassment, worry, disappointment, guilt, frustration, fear, and sadness. And I'm sure that there's many forms of little idiosyncrasy changes in all of those little different variances of all those different emotions that you have to deal with. But we as BPDs tend to default to the anger. You need to address this, because what you're feeling when you have a meltdown may not be anger, and it more than likely isn't anger. It's more than likely one of these other 11 emotions, And you need to figure that out, because once you learn how to deal with those emotions, the tendency to move towards the anger thing dissipates more and more as you go. So you really need to look into what's going on here. And one of the things that I pray about for the Lord to do for me is when that feeling comes on me, to give me an extended second before the feeling hits, and the way I burst into this meltdown reaction, extend that second so that I can think, because we tend to just react. When we hit that place where we, in a visual way, we step on a landmine and we go into a BPD meltdown, we need to have a place where we can think. So I ask for that extended second. We need to learn how to do that. Instead of just reacting, we need to learn how to think about what's going to come out of us and why, because it's usually not anger. And if we're honest with ourselves and learn how to deal with those other emotions, it does good for us because of the physiological ramifications that these meltdowns have with us. High blood pressure, adrenaline, adrenaline rush, and then a letdown, all the physiological things that go along with this disorder. And the sad part is it's not only affecting us, it's affecting all those that we interact with, that we have these meltdowns on. Like I said before, fortunately for me, or unfortunately, it's my wife and God are the only two that have to deal with this. But you all out there, you might have loved ones, a wife, children, friends, co-workers. Whatever it is, we're not only affecting just ourselves, but also the loved ones around us. So I'm going to encourage you again to seek counseling, and I'll keep saying that in almost all my videos. Seek counseling, because it will do wonders for you. I love my counselor. She helps me so much because she gives me a different perspective than the way I think on what's going on. And it's an educated perspective because they go through training for this, just like doctors, only it's for psychological stuff. So again, I'm going to beg you to go out and find some counseling, because you really need it. You need help, just like I need help, just like any of us suffering from borderline personality disorder need. And that's a good thing for us and for our loved ones. So that's going to be it for this video. I'll see you next time. I'm going to leave you with this thought. Go out and live life like there's no tomorrow, because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. When you're out and about, be on your guard, show people love and care, and just live life like there's no tomorrow. So I'll see you next time. Fish out.